Good evening, Bethel family. How are you? Happy blessed Wednesday. We hope you had an amazing day and an amazing week so far. And so I'm Minister Shayna, and I'm just welcoming you to this Wednesday night service. Um, the Women's Ministry is hosting this month's Wednesday night services because it is Women's History Month. And I want to wish every woman on the line happy International Women's Day. And before we go any further, I want to remind all the women online that we have the Women's Prayer Breakfast coming up on March 25th at 10 a.m. Please go ahead and register. We are so excited to see you. We are expecting a great move of God, and we don't want you to miss it. So you can go ahead to the Bethel website and register, and we hope to see you there. And so we hope you were blessed last week by our first Wednesday night this month, where we talked with the pastors, some of the pastors of our house, and got to learn a little bit about their lives and things that they have done. And so this week, we're going to be focusing on health. We're talking about the seven mountains of influence. And so the first mountain last week was on religion. And this week, we're going to be focusing on health. We had some dynamic women who are going to just help speak to us and help us be well in our minds and our bodies. And so I'm excited to start this conversation, but I am not the moderator for today. I'm going to ask our moderator, Minister Adrian Hicks, to come on out. She will be moderating today's service. Hey, Sister Adrian, how are you?
Praise the Lord, everybody. Happy to be here.
Wonderful. And we have some other women along with us. We have Jensine Santiago, who's an RN.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Jensine. We also have Sister Tamika Covington, a licensed social worker. Hey, Tamika.
Hi, good evening, Bethel family.
And we have Jasmine Gibson, who's also a registered nurse.
Hi, everybody.
All right, ladies, we're excited.
So welcome to everyone. I'm so happy to be here today. And it's National Women's Recognition Day. I'm saying it wrong. I feel like I am. But it's all about women. And of course, everybody else who's on this line, welcome to our evening Wednesday service. So we want to jump right in. So as Minister Shayna said, we are tonight's service or panel is focused on health, right? So health is wealth, we all know, and sometimes it's more than just the physical body, but it is about what encompasses everything from head to toe. And so tonight, we gathered a few friends whose careers, have been dedicated to the health and the betterment of their patients, their community. And so it is my pleasure to navigate this conversation today. So let's start with introductions. Of course, we see everyone's name on the screen, but let's start with introductions. So please introduce yourself, your profession, and how in some way, shape, or form it deals with women's health. Jensine, we'll start with you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jensine Santiago. I am a registered nurse working in oncology. And it relates to women's health because, unfortunately, a lot of women are affected by a lot of women-specific cancers, and we work at a center that does a lot of screening for women's health as well.
Amazing. Jasmine?
Hi, everyone. I also work in oncology. A nurse at Memorial Sloan Kettering, the Ralph Lauren Center. As Jensine said, we do a lot of screening for breast cancer, for HPV, as far as for women, colorectal cancers, all type of cancers. But before this job, I was in the operating room. It was still at an oncology hospital, but I'm also in school for my nurse practitioner, and I kind of want to focus towards women's health because as I have been in my nursing career, I have developed a soft spot for women.
Love that. And Tamika?
Hi, everyone. Tamika Covington. I am a licensed social worker in the state of New York and New Jersey. My day job, so to speak, is working with high schoolers, 9th grade to 12th grade, students, but I also work in private practice, and I work with men and women, but predominantly women within the mental health field. So I think as far as mental health is concerned, it is my passion. It's important that everyone takes care of their mental health, but even as women with so much on our plates and so many things that we try to navigate, health is important, mental health is important. And so that's, me.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you guys for those introductions. So I know a lot of us either have already defined our career path or on the way to defining it or enhancing it in any way, shape, or form. Talk to me. Tell me what or why did you choose the profession that you're currently in? Anybody can start, it doesn't matter.
I'll start. I chose to become a registered nurse because my younger sister got diagnosed with lupus when she was 14. And so me and my mom was in and out of the hospital like a lot, with her having like a lot of flare ups. And so I feel like the hospital was almost like after school activity. Like every day a lot of times we were spending a lot of time in hospitals. And I just was like taking a liking to the way the nurses like made a difference in her life, her day, her situation. Like it kind of like depending on the nurse she had for the day, kind of depend on the kind of day she was having. And I was like, that's a big impact. Like I think I want to do that. So that's what influenced me to become a nurse, to make a difference like the nurses that my sister encountered was making for her.
Wow, what amazing. Jensine or Tamika, whoever.
I guess I'll jump in. So I think I've always had a passion for working with people in general. Growing up, I think I've always ended up in some type of social service job, so to speak. And once I graduated with my bachelor's in business management, I still found myself in nonprofit organizations, working with people and figuring out how do I allow people to feel like they can achieve what they desire and to be the best version of themselves. And that caused me to say, I'm going to go back to school and go back for my master's in social work. And then I think, the rest was history. I think that things started to fall into place, that I would assess the parts of my jobs that I loved and the parts that I wasn't too crazy about. And then I think I just kind of fell into this place once I was intentional about doing so. And yeah.
Jensine.
So similarly to Jasmine, I had someone very close to me. My mother was affected personally by breast cancer, and I saw her battle that at a very young age. So I also saw how the nurses created this positive impact in her life. And I also wanted to do the same thing. And I always knew that I wanted to do oncology because the way that they would support her and take care of her was something that I wanted to do for other people. And specifically because it was breast cancer, specifically working with a woman with breast cancer.
Amazing stories. So I'm going to punt this to Tamika, and then Jasmine and Jensine can follow. What are your top 2 or 3 pieces of information you wish women knew as it pertains to your profession?
Oh, wow. As it pertains to my profession, I think the top 2 or 3 pieces that I wish women knew, or that a lot of people knew, is that mental health is health. And a lot of times we are assessing so many other things like our emotional health, our spiritual health, but then we kind of disregard our mental health. And especially as, in being a woman of color, I hear a lot of women just feeling like you have to deal with things and, life goes on and, you just have to be strong and all these type of things that I actually feel holds us back. And so while we're trying to take care of our health, it's important that we think about our mental health. It's important that we think about the ways we want to address it. And so for some people, it is going to see a counselor, a therapist. It is journaling. It is, whatever, prayer, meditation, different things like that. But I just think that there needs to be some intentionality behind of it. It's not something that just happens whenever you have time. Like when I have time, I'll do it. But if I don't have time, I'm not going to do it. I think it needs to be built into our schedules like any other thing. And so yeah, so that those are the things that I really feel like when it comes to mental health and awareness, like being intentional about building it into your schedule, and that there's many different ways to address, you know, mental health concerns, mental illness, and things of that nature.
Great advice. So I know, for those who don't know what oncology is, because we don't want to assume that, you know, everybody knows what terminology or medical terminology is. So although Jasmine and Jensine both are currently working in oncology, they both have expertise in other things, and so we know that cancer doesn't just usually just pop up, right? Sometimes it could be a prevalence of pre-existing conditions that we may have. So Jasmine, talk to me first about from a standpoint of health, maybe internal health, if you could. What two or three things do you wish people or women knew or did that would increase their health in a good way?
So I think as far as health, recently the top two things that come to mind first, as I've been telling like a lot of my friends and family, is that I know in our community a lot of people we know, they don't want to go to the doctor if nothing is wrong, just because you feel good, you think everything's okay. But annual exams are very important. Early detection is like key. Even though you feel good, every year you should go see a provider, have your blood drawn. You never know. There's so many silent disease. There's so many things you could catch before they become something more serious. And also understand that when you go see a provider, like you are, I want women to feel empowered to ask questions. And if you don't like their provider, that you can change it. Like the way we, when we're buying something or when we're shopping, we look at reviews and we ask people, we give recommendations. I want everyone to do that with your health provider as well. Like ask people who they go to, or try to get personal recommendations, because it's very important to have some type of, be able to relate to the provider you're going to, or to feel comfortable with the provider you're going to. Because sometimes you're going to a provider and you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel like they understand you, you don't understand what they're saying. But ask questions. If you're not getting what you need, if you don't feel comfortable, get back on ZocDoc, or ask people in the church community, your family, your friends, you know, like, hey, do you go to a GYN you like, or do you like, I mean, yeah. So the having a provider you actually feel comfortable with, that you can trust and ask questions and understand more about your health, is very important. And just going to those regular physicals every year. You should be seeing someone and getting some blood drawn, to, even though you feel good or you think everything is okay, is very important.
Amazing. So Jensine, feel free to add to that. But in addition, can you give us an idea of some annual exams that women should be doing on a monthly basis? Just a few, if you can.
Yeah, I know, definitely, like when you see your GYN, getting your pap smears, making sure that you're doing your breast exams as well. And those two are like really primarily the two that I could think of for women specifically. And just to echo both Jasmine and Tamika, like you don't want to brush anything that you're feeling under the rug. Like I know Jasmine was saying that if you feel well, you should still continue to go see someone. But on the flip side, like don't delay if you aren't feeling well. And that goes for mental health as well. The earlier, the better, the more like Tamika said, the more intentional you are about taking care of yourself. I think that contributes to your overall health.
Great. So
And when I say annual, I'm sorry. And when I say annual exam, they're gonna annual exam. They're gonna check your blood pressure. They're going to actually, and that's something you may not be doing at home, or you wouldn't have known if you didn't go to that exam, that your blood pressure is high, or They're going to, check your oxygen. They're going to listen to your lungs, listen to your heart, and get the basic blood work just to begin with. Those are like the basic things, the blood work, the blood pressure that they can check. And if they, discover, this is where you discover something and it moves forward to, but the basics should be checked
Thank you
every
for
year.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So for those who are taking notes, of course, we're talking about women, but at the same time, this information is simultaneous, as Tamika said, for men as well. So even for the men on the line who are here, take these notes for your mom, your sister, your neighbor, your good friend, as well as yourself. So we all know. So internal exams or your PCP, what they call your primary care physician, as Jasmine said, those are the basics you should be looking for. And so if you don't get those basics, then take that advice and definitely, try to seek care elsewhere or ask questions. So I think the key to that is being empowered. So for anybody, my next question to kind of move on, like I know you guys talked about being intentional. In your opinion, how can a woman become more engaged in their personal health journey? Or health in general. I know we talk about being intentional. Can someone speak to like the steps, like something tangible, easy that they may do for somebody who doesn't know where to start? They are experiencing, maybe some issues, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally. Where can one start to address this and be engaged in their health moving forward?
I hate to be repetitive, but go ahead, Tamika. Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So I was gonna say, in the area of being intentional, I think, right now we're at a Bethel service, right? So we're speaking to believers, and there may be some other friends and family that are joining us. But I think that we need to be prayerful, and we need to also take the time out to say, like, what are the areas of my life where I feel that I'm doing well, and what are the areas of my life where I feel that there may be some challenges. And with that being said, listing those things out. So making a to-do list, or just identifying, what I think as far as my workouts, I'm good with that. I go to the gym, or I go to dance, or whatever. And then you're thinking about like my mental and my emotional health. Like, do I feel like I have a lot of crying spells? Do I feel very triggered all the time? Oh, maybe I need to, address that. That's not as good as I would like. And then what can I do about it? So I think it's kind of going through almost a list of things concerning our lives, and being prayerful about it. That's one thing. But then also saying, for the areas that I don't really feel like I'm as active in, what are my options? So there's always many different options. Just be, intention. I feel like intentionality is always my word. So, but just be intentional about choosing an option that you feel might work for you. And sometimes you have to, do trial and errors. It's not always going to be the first, hit. Just as Jasmine said, you want to be able to find a provider that you can connect with. Sometimes that's not always on the first try. You may have some disappointments, but it doesn't mean that you just give up. You say, you know what, this didn't work out. This is something that I'm looking for. Let me ask maybe these different questions, or get another referral, or whatever. And I think that that's a way that we can begin to take care of our health overall as women, and touching on different points within our lives, whether mental, emotional, spiritual, physical health, all of the above.
I think that also, to follow what Tamika said, like that it can be daunting to do all of that at once. And I think that small changes, whether that's like going for a walk, like a walk for a couple minutes every day, or like for me personally, I journal for a couple minutes in the morning just to get my mindset in the right direction. Like small changes end up being really large ones over time. And if you take that time, I know that there are many people on here, and I know that women wear a lot of hats, and I think it's really hard for us, while we're taking care of our kids, we're taking care of our family members, taking care of our friends. I think a lot of times it's hard to just take a moment to pause and do something for yourself, and whether that's a couple of minutes in the morning to just take a breather, or go for a walk, or do something small, that it makes a huge impact on your health.
Amen.
Yeah. That was really good to me. It sounded like I heard you say, just sit and have like self-reflection. Like that's really good. And as Jensen said, I'm a big journaler as well. I journal at night. I have a 18-month-old, so journaling in the morning um don't really work for me. I do do a lot of things at night. So so I do my journaling at night, just get all these thoughts out your head before you go to sleep, and because sleep is having a good sleep schedule is like something small. I know it sounds so like, yeah, sleep. Everybody got to sleep, and people like, but having a routine sleep schedule can decrease so many health issues, like your stress level, your just overall like mental health, your physical health, like skimping on sleep. I feel like is a big thing that people just don't think about, but as Tamika said, as you do your self reflection, I think it's also important to communicate with others. I guess have a moment of like vulnerability with someone you trust, your friends and your family. And if you feel like you're going through something or something just feels overwhelming or you don't know where to start, I think sharing stories with other people, being transparent, people will share stories with you when you realize that other people are going through this too, where they may have a good example to help you or good advice to lead you, like because most of the time, as my grandma say, like nothing's new under the sun, like someone else has already been through this, thought about this. So when you feeling something, like just talk to people, like don't hold it in, like you're going through something, you feeling like you need help with something, reach out, be vulnerable. And
I love
I
that. Can
I
we
was
take? Go ahead.
sorry, I'm gonna say, there are so many times that we suffer in silence and in so many different ways, and it's not necessary for us to do so. But because we often think that we're the only ones, or because there's such stigmas associated with many different things, health concerns or whatever, oh, well, if you were eating healthier, you wouldn't have diabetes. If you would do so, sometimes people avoid conversations or they're not vulnerable with people because they may think that the blame is going to be pointed on them or that they did something wrong. Um, you're stressed, you're depressed because you don't believe enough, you don't trust God, whatever. So I think that suffering in silence is something that we have to transition out of, and we have to do better with finding safe spaces to be able to share with people who we know have our best interests at heart.
I love that. So I wanted to add something just popped in my head. So I want to take a step back. So I think some people may, I know personally for myself, the pandemic, I'm sure just messed up routine and everything else in between. And so I know I'm trying to get back on the good foot and making sure, hence why I have on these glasses because I can't see, but that's neither here or there. But talk as nurses, right, who see patients on a daily basis, for maybe for those who are again trying to transition back to a daily routine or a routine of seeing practitioners and doctors. Can you tell us how important it is to know your family history? What are some things you should know so that you can talk to your doctor about it? Tell us like what it's used for, if anything, how important it is to really be informed, and with how they can be better prepared for their next doctor's visit.
Oh, yes, definitely. That is something that any provider is going to ask because so many diseases are genetically linked. So, any hypertension, any issues with diabetes, any cancer history within any of your family members, usually like your parents, your grandparents, definitely knowing that well will help the provider guide your journey, like, and guide what needs to be done and what needs to be monitored in order to prevent you from going in the same direction, or to prevent anything as well. So knowing familial history is very important.
For example, if you have someone in your immediate family that has breast cancer, prostate cancer, colon cancer, something like that, your screenings would start earlier than someone who a family member didn't have. So if you had a mom or grandmother that may have had breast cancer, the provider would need to know the information because you need to start getting mammograms earlier than someone who doesn't have their family history. Or if you know, had some your mom or someone had, and when I say immediate family, mom, dad, or paternal or maternal
Siblings.
siblings, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then you would need to get that colonoscopy earlier than the standard age, which is 45. And like for mammograms, I think the standard age is 40. But if you had that family history, it was started 20.
About 10. So if there's a history in an immediate family member, it would be 10 years from the time that your immediate family member was diagnosed. So it really is important because it does change the timeline for someone who like necessarily didn't have a familial history of XYZ and whatnot.
Is that the same for comorbidities, for hypertension, for diabetes or heart disease? Is that the same? Should you know your family history when you go to the doctor about those things as well?
Yep, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those, though there isn't like much screening besides, you know, like checking your blood pressure or whatever, a lot of those have to do with lifestyle changes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like really hard because we probably have the same habits that our mother and father have because that's what they cooked for us, or that's the food that we saw, so that's the food that we eat. And so a lot of, I know hypertension for sure, a lot of lifestyle changes could really decrease the chances of that. And when I say lifestyle changes, I'm big on like nutrition. You want to make sure your diet is like high in fruits and vegetables, fiber and protein. I know everyone's heard this saying, an apple a day, keep the doctor away. I know when I was younger, I'm like, so I should eat an apple every day, but it's more so fiber. There's other fibers out there if you don't want an apple. But fruits and vegetables are very, very important for your body.
And one that I'm sure everyone has heard across the board, and I know that for some people it's easier than others. For me personally, not so much, but water. Just hydrate yourself. People forget. We forget
no sweet tea. No sweet tea.
No fluid, but hopefully water. If you're gonna drink something with caffeine, that's like, let's say you have a cup of coffee, that's like a diuretic, so you want to balance that out. Like if you're gonna have a cup of coffee, you want to drink at least a cup of water plus some more. But that's one that I think we all know, but it takes like you have to think about it in order to follow through.
It's very cliche, but so true. You got to flush your body out. You got to flush the toxins out. I know a lot, if you've ever been to the hospital or ever need to go to the hospital or had a family member in the hospital, you'll see them give this big bag of fluid. And, you know, on the bag, it says sodium chloride, but it's like water with a little sodium in it, sodium particles. But like literally a patient can come in like limped over and you give them a liter of water for an hour and they walk out like a new person. We see it all the time. Like the water is, it sounds cliche, but water is important.
How much water should we be drinking a day? How much water should we try to drink a day for those who don't, you know,
So they actually say half your body weight.
Whoa.
I think technically, I think it's half your body weight in fluid ounces. That's the technical answer. But you just,
can we put it in glasses? Let's talk about ounces or glasses. A little more for those who are.
I mean, we could do water bottles, at least 2 water bottles a day. You know, the regular 16-ounce water bottles, at least 2
at minimum 2 water bottles
at
a day.
Absolute minimum, no matter your age, size, weight.
Got it.
Yeah. At least 2 bottles.
I
mean, what would you say, Justine? Because that would be.
I think that's good. It's definitely easier said than done, but definitely minimum.
Absolutely.
Is that for sure.
Tamika, you gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, even when it comes to nutrition, like thinking about our vitamins and even times when we I know when we fast, for example, or when we say like I'm going without something, I'm going to minimize something, our minds are just so much more clearer. So not only your body, but your mind is like, you feel like you can focus more. It's there's a real science behind that. Like it's not just something that's just happening and it's all in your mind. So we have to be intentional about what we're putting in our bodies, the nutrition as far as what we're eating, but then also like supplements and things of that nature, depending on how like our PCPs instruct us and so forth.
Amazing. So for the person, or maybe a friend or family member who has somebody who may not, who's struggling to trying to get on a good foot, right? How can we be supportive? How can we be a supportive friend, family member, sister, and maybe getting someone who may not be as compliant into a routine?
Like I said earlier, I think sharing stories. Like I think that's my big communication is giving people real life examples. I feel like people remember stories, which I don't give patient information, but I have a lot of stories to share. Or like I said earlier, if you're going through someone, you never know how your story could help someone else, or to make that person feel like this is a safe place for you to talk to. And when you're just having your daily hangouts with your family and friends, if you notice something they say that that's bothering them, I mean, offer to be accountability partner, or offer to Google is. I mean, I'm a nurse, but like you could still Google stuff. If someone's having like a issue with something, there's most of the time there may be like a food or something that they should eat more of, or there may be a certain exercise they could do more of. So I would say being present. Um, so if they need you to go for a walk with them, we can walk and talk. Um, I was taught most of the time, if you have to do something that you don't want to do, kind of mix it with something you do want to do. I don't like washing dishes, so let me call my friend and put on FaceTime and put it right in front of the sink. So while I'm on FaceTime, I'm washing dishes, I'm doing something I don't like to do while doing something I do like to do. So
I love that.
something that you need to do that you don't really want to do, kind of try to balance it out with something you do want to do. I don't want to go for a walk, but if I go for a walk with ginseng, then it'll be less. I won't even think about the walk. We can just talk about. So if you need to do something, find somebody or something you do like to do and try to balance it out.
Love that. Love that. Anybody else want to add? Oh, okay. So my next question has to do like with community. So I know we lost Tamika. Hopefully she'll come back. But in the meantime, we'll carry on. And I know that both of you guys kind of work right here in the Harlem community. And so do you have any idea of, I know, right? I love that. What could we as women or even I'm sorry, I got a little distracted. So what could we do as women to help impact our community?
Say something?
Did you hear the question? I'm sorry, I know you may have popped out. I don't know if the service got a little. But what could we do as women to help impact the communities, whether in which we work, live, whether if we serve, for those who serve? Do you have any ideas of things, simple things that we can do that would impact our community in a positive way?
I think we could decide how we want to share and what impact we want to make. This is, the age of social media, and sometimes we think that social media is like the worst thing ever, but there's ways to utilize social media in a positive way. And so even if it's making a post, like in my profession, it's like I'm, focused on mental health. So I can do a post about mental health, or I can share about, mental health resources with those in my community. And passing it along to other people who can then pass it along to other people. So I think as long as we are able to focus on who we want to connect with and how we want to connect with them, and the words that we want to get out, the information that we want to get out, then there's many different ways that we can do so. So I would say like social media is one way to do that. Texting, things of that nature, finding people to connect with who also are within the same field as you, and figuring out how can you come together. Maybe it's a conference, maybe it's a panel, discussions that we're having, such as tonight. It's all about the community and being able to look out for one another and share information to the broader community, so to speak.
I love that. And part of, and personally, I think that sometimes we think it has to be like something so crazy and big to make an impact. And I think every little bit, every little piece helps. And so, of course, finding those things, if it's, finding an accountability partner, if it's, finding a great resource and having your women's group like tonight, and say, hey, let's all commit to, going to this place together. Some people write letters like to officials. We are dealing with a huge for New Yorkers. I mean, for people who are aware of what's going on, and the asylum seekers that are here, and just how resources are being stretched and further, and the need is growing as our communities are growing. How can we help? How do we point people in that direction, whether it's for those who need pantry, and just thinking about ways that we could get involved. I think part of that is I read something today, and it said I saw a story, and basically it was a huge hallway and in a school full of children, and the professor gave every child a balloon. And I want to say, by looking at the picture, I want to say there were at least a few hundred, maybe 300, 400 balloons. Anyway, each child, he told the kids, write your name on the balloon. And they wrote their name on the balloon. He said, all right, now throw it in the hallway. And so the picture was, this closed hallway with lockers full of these different color balloons. And then he said, all right, now everybody, come on out, find your balloon with your name on it. And of course, that was like, a crazy feat, because there's balloons all over the place and you can't find your name. You probably, I'm sure, I can only imagine that you were finding everybody else's name but yours. So, he told the kids, stop. Let's reframe this. Find whatever balloon is in front of you, pick it up and find the person whose name is on that balloon. And it took them literally like 5 to 7 minutes, out of all those balloons. And the moral of the story was that when we try to find our own happiness, and when we're selfish and we try to find our own happiness, is almost impossible, right? By looking at that. But when we take the time to help someone else, to lift someone else up, it makes it tangible. It makes it easier to do. And so that was such a great analogy. And so even as, I think the sentiments of what tonight was talking about and has been echoed is that, health is wealth in all shapes and forms. But most importantly, part of that healing process and really, worrying about ourselves is great, but also lending a hand to a neighbor, to a sister, to a mother, to whomever is in need. It creates an even larger impact, because I can be healthy and you can be healthy too. And that's what I think, the beauty of this conversation, the beauty of this month, as we celebrate all that we are, all that women offer to this world, whether we're mothers, whether we're sisters, wives, and the list goes on, about all the things that we do. And we can talk for hours, I'm sure, at night about the task and all the things that we have. But one of the beauty in that is that not only do we have ourselves, but we can have each other. We can have each other's backs. We can care for one another if we allow that to happen. And so as we close out, because I know time is getting ready to come, draw close. I think the people behind the scenes have some resources that they'll put in the chat for you guys to utilize. Tamika, I don't know if you want to kind of highlight maybe some of them or what they were for.
Yes.
Do you want that? Is that
sure. So I guess some that I will highlight, as far as counseling, therapy, there's Be Well Psychotherapy, which is a practice that I'm a part of. And we service clients in New York and New Jersey. And so that's one of the links that will be shared with you tonight. So we focus on individual, couples, and group, family, all of the above. There is also women's health. And so, Women's Health Magazine, I think they're great. They have some great pointers. And so sometimes when I want a quick look up, I just, look that up. Essence also has like a health and wellness column, so to speak, that they give some good pointers as well. When it comes to Bethel, there's Beth Hark Christian Counseling Center, and there's a lot of different things that's offered with Beth Hark, but counseling is a part of it. We do have pantries and other things, so still taking care of the community in different ways. And then there is a crisis line, the New York City crisis line, where you can reach out to someone if you yourself or a family member is in crisis. Having mental health providers and people who are more trained in the field respond versus calling 911, which sometimes unfortunately has a different outcome when you are not as familiar with what to do with mental health. And so those are the few resources, and there's some others that you might see pop up as well.
I know one of them is the Ralph Lauren Center, which is actually in our community. Is literally a walk. You can walk from the church there on 124th, I would think between Madison and Park. And so those basic screening services that Jensine and Jasmine spoke about, the mammograms, the pap smears, colorectal, and the good thing about that is, as a community program, it takes patients who are underinsured, uninsured, insured. So if you have insurance, but they're going to take your insurance. Don't try to come there with no insurance because they're going to ask you for it. But listen, you can start there, right? You can start there. They have some great nurse practitioners, nurses, and physicians and doctors there who are well and knowledgeable. And it doesn't mean, to make it clear, it doesn't mean you have to have cancer to be screened, right? We're looking for ways to keep healthy. In addition to, if you need a PCP or any other resources, they can definitely point you in the right direction. So my last thing before the night is over, so just get it in your mind really quickly. If you could debunk one myth about health, if it's mental, fine, Tamika, whatever it is, if you could debunk one myth for somebody today, what would the myth be, and what would the truth be?
I truly think that everyone can benefit from some form of counseling or therapy, right? And I feel like in the pandemic, a couple years back when the pandemic first kicked off, and we had a panel as well. I was championing for Jesus and therapy. I believe in both. And the Bible speaks about connecting with people, like wise counsel and different things of that nature. And so sometimes a lot of times there's still a stigma when it comes to mental health services. So it's what you need. It doesn't mean that you have to take a label or anything like that. It's literally just conversation. What is happening? You have someone who has been professionally trained to talk about what you're going through, to give you some pointers, to share resources, right? And like anything else, and the others may share, but like with anything else, if you have cancer, right, you may say, I want to go through chemotherapy. You may say, I want to take natural herbs. There's different ways of going about things. And so again, when you're struggling, when it comes to your mental health, there's different ways of going about it, but please don't just throw out the window therapy and counseling because you feel like it's something of the world or something that God is not pleased with. There are Christian therapists and counselors, if that, is something that you want to explore, but there's such a stigma about these services, and it really isn't the old images of you laying across the couch. Some people feel comfortable that way, but it's not the old images of you laying across the couch and the shrink
on
is,
the
yeah. I have some people that like that. I have some students that like that in the school. They make themselves very comfortable in our sessions. So just being more open to the idea and just seeing it as one additional approach to taking care of yourself.
So if you see a counselor, if you're talking to a counselor, you're not crazy. You're talking.
No, you're just talking. You're not crazy, right? You're not crazy, whatever that may mean. Yeah, you're not.
I love that. I love that. Jensine or Jasmine, you want to debunk any health myth that you could think of that people, that you may hear. I'm sure you hear a whole lot, and you have to kind of correct people. What would be one that you think that will help somebody today by helping them understand the truth from a medical standpoint? You on mute.
Yeah, okay. I think the biggest one that's like that the flu shot give you the flu.
Oh, that's a good one. So the flu shot doesn't give you the flu. They're not shooting flu into you.
So the flu. Do you want to go, Jensine? Because I feel like you just explained this to a patient the other day.
Yes. Or that vaccines I think because people, especially with the flu vaccine, that there's like an inactive, it's not a live vaccine. It's just, it basically gives vaccines in general, give your body the blueprint of what something looks
Right.
like. So then that way, if you were to
I
be
think when the
exposed
body
by it,
recognizes it, you may get the symptoms, but it's showing your body what to do if you come in contact with this.
mhm,
Because
exactly.
I don't know if that makes sense, but we try to break that down a lot, as well as the whole COVID vaccine now. Um, so the vaccines in general, especially the flu shot,
Blueprint.
like no, don't want it.
So we're giving you, so vaccines give your body the blueprint. It gives your body the
The
information it
blue,
needs.
the answers on how to fight if you were to, how to fight something if you were to be exposed to it.
I love it. Now, Jensine, what's yours? Because you jumped on Jasmine's. Now,
Um,
oh, wait, okay, there you go. You went on mute. Could it be anything about medication, or any um specific things that maybe that may be, excuse me, particular to any people groups or minority groups, any way, shape, or form? Is there anything you can think of that you can help shed some light on, to help somebody online today? If not, it's okay, because you did give a great answer about the thing. I got
not
that
off
down.
the
Keep that.
top of my head, unfortunately, but if it comes to me, I will message you for sure.
Amazing, amazing. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I had a good time today with my beautiful sisters. And for those who are on the service today, those resources, as Tamika said, will be in the chat, so you should be able to grab them. And of course, feel free to uh, send information, or call the numbers on the bottom of the screen if you want prayer, or if you have any questions about what was discussed today, or how we could be a further assistance. The church office can take that information, of course, and get it back to us. And you have my word that we will get back to you and make sure that we answer the question to the best of our ability. And if not, we'll find the answer in a way that that suits your needs. And so let's pray out before we go. So, Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to come before you. We thank you for the opportunity to chat today. We thank you for the opportunity to learn and to be better. And so I thank you, Lord, for each and every panelist that was present this evening, and for those who are watching, whether it be YouTube, Facebook, or any other social media forum. I thank you, Lord, that in this season, not only will we be strong spiritually, we'll be strong mentally, we'll be strong in our bodies. And so I thank you, Lord, even now for providing the resources, oh God, for someone who needs a friend, for someone who needs someone to talk to. May those resources find them, oh God. I thank you that the people of God will thrive healthy and thrive in their bodies in this season. For everyone who's given out, oh God, may you return in 100-fold. I thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. So, everyone, have a great evening. Thank you for joining us, and we shall see you next Wednesday for another surprise in the pillar for the Women's Month. Bye bye.
Right.